Hey, I'm making my own way, but I stumble and I falter every day. But I love my baby now. Well, I love my baby, I'm still learning how. Hey, 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 I'm okay. Stay with me.
Good evening, and welcome to tonight's show. This evening, the Pathways to Parenting series is focusing on cyberbullying, how to keep kids safe. I'm Alicia Connors-Bauer with Boulder County Healthy Youth Alliance, and I'm your moderator this evening. Before we get started, I'd like to thank the Boulder Valley School District and Channel 22 for hosting this evening's show. Joining us this evening, we have Ryan Dawson. Ryan is a local licensed therapist who specializes in working with teens, families, and young adults, offering community-based mentoring, in-office sessions, and gaming addiction groups. For over 20 years, Ryan has honed his strengths-based approach through serving the community as a coach, teacher, mentor, addictions counselor, and family therapist. Welcome, Ryan.
Thanks.
We also have joining us Lisa Check. Lisa Check is a counselor at Angevine Middle School. And Lisa also is a national trainer in bullying prevention. Lisa, we're lucky to have Lisa join us this evening to help share her expertise as well as some of the groundwork that she's been doing. We also have Brendan Bauer. Brendan is a sophomore at Fairview High School. And Brendan is joining us this evening to help give a high school perspective on the topic of cyberbullying and some advice to parents. So one of the things that I'd like to do is to let people in the audience who are watching this at home know that they can submit questions, and we will answer your questions live this evening. You can submit your questions by going to www.boulderpsychologicalservices.com, and you can click on the link for tonight's show. So one of the things that I wanted to start out with as we talk about cyberbullying is really to help set the stage on what does this look like? What's cyberbullying look like within our community? So I brought with me some statistics from the Boulder County Youth Risk Behavior Survey. In 2011, middle school students, our Boulder Valley 7th and 8th grade students, 18% of them reported being electronically bullied. That also includes being bullied through email, chat rooms, instant messaging, websites, or texting. The interesting thing to me when I look at this data is that if you compare the difference between males and females, almost a quarter of females, 7th and 8th grade females, have been electronically bullied, compared to 13% of males, which is about 1 out of 10. And then when you look at it in terms of high school, according to the 2011 data, the percentage of females who have been reported electronically bullied is 25%, exactly 1 out of 4. And the percentage of males is 10.7%, so again, stays 1 out of 2. Overall, 18% of high school students have said they've been electronically bullied. And the other piece that I've noticed is that seems to drop when students reach the 12th grade. So one of the things that I wanted to ask our panelists is, when you think about cyberbullying, talk a little bit about what you think are the differences between cyberbullying compared to more in-person types of bullying, and what do you see as the impacts of the difference between the two? Lisa, do you want to start?
Sure. Well, I think, like you said, Alicia, there are a lot of similarities. In general, there's a power differential in both types of bullying. The similar players as far as a target or a victim of bullying, the actual bully, and then bystanders who are seeing what's happening. And those hold true in both cyber and, typical or standard bullying. Some of the huge differences, and I think what makes it such a complex issue, is that cyber takes on this this sort of nonstop bullying aspect. So whereas a student can leave school and go home and get away from their bully that they might see face to face at school, when it's cyberbullying, there's almost no escape. They can be chatted. They can get an instant message. They can get an email. They can get a phone call. They can go on Facebook and get bullied on Facebook. So, as much as our students are using technology that I see, it's almost inescapable, the bullying, and it's pretty much nonstop. I think the other piece is that often the target is alone, and that adds to the isolation and the feelings of sadness that go along with cyberbullying. Whereas at school, a kid who gets targeted might seek a friend or seek a counselor. At home, there's isolation, and there's a sense of, I think students get overwhelmed, like there's nothing I can do about this. So I think those are two of the big differences that I see.
Okay. Ryan?
Yeah, I would agree with you, Lisa, especially in terms of that the piece about powerlessness that's felt and the stress that comes from that and the impact that has on the developing brain. I mean, really, there's a lot of research that shows that stress in all forms can really impact the nervous system and lead to more kind of long-standing issues. And one of the things with cyberbullying, especially, is the anonymity that can be a part of it. When you have an anonymous web page posted to hating a specific person in school with ratings about how they look and all their unattractive traits, I mean, it can be a real mess. And the other thing that I remember back in my undergrad and my psychology days, that when they did a study of war crimes in Vietnam, that the more face paint or the more camouflage that the perpetrator had, the worse the actual war crime was. There was a correlation there, so that anonymity can really breed some pretty nasty stuff.
Brendan, would you like to add anything?
Yes, I would. I completely agree with both with what Lisa and Ryan said, but I also like to add in that with cyberbullying, it's a lot more covert in that there could be people who are just in the next room but have no idea what's going on and may never know, simply because it could be like a text from one person to the other and then no one else would ever see that text or even know about it.
Okay, thank you. So it's interesting, based on what you both said, I found this quote today from Rosalind Wiseman where it said, because it is so public, it makes everyone feel like it's happening all the time. And I think that sort of ties in with what you had both said. So we talked a little bit about the developing brain and the sense of isolation that can occur with cyberbullying and how you may not necessarily be in a place where you can go to ask somebody. How do you get past that isolation piece and start encouraging somebody who might be cyberbullied to seek help or to let somebody know what's happening? What steps would you recommend? Ryan?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's in the research that I read, they're trying to develop these best practice models, and it's definitely a multifaceted kind of approach where you got the schools involved, you have the parents involved, and you have a peer culture that is not tolerant of bullying, that is actually trending towards caring and empathy and compassion. And those things can start pretty grassroots in the same way that cyberbullying does. There was a nice story about a kid at a high school that started random acts of kindness on Twitter, and that kind of caught on fire there, and then it went to other schools. So but it's definitely something that needs to be integrated. One school assembly on don't bully others is not really gonna cut it.
And Lisa, I know that you've been doing a lot of work in your middle school to reduce incidents of bullying. Have you also addressed cyberbullying?
Absolutely. I think it's, in middle school, obviously, we know that the research shows that bullying peaks in middle school. So it's something we need to address in a really thoughtful way that really does look at a multifaceted approach. But cyberbullying is certainly a big piece of what we do. We have a group, we're the Angevine Bobcats. So we have a group called the Ally Cats. And we train about 80 students in bystander intervention and being allies to other students. So, and how to be a cyber ally is one component of what we really talk about. So how you can, when those comments are made public, when it's on Facebook or when there are bystanders involved, how can you support that target by simply not continuing it, not spreading it, not continuing the thread, or by checking in with the target afterwards? Are you okay? Is there anything that I can do to help? So we really do teach that same set of skills, just like we would with in-person bullying, for cyberbullying.
So, Brendan, before I ask you a question, Lisa mentioned Facebook, and I have this quick clip that Baltimore, the local CBS station in Baltimore, did about some efforts that are going on in the Anne Arundel School District in partnership with Facebook. And it's a really short clip, so we'll go ahead and show that to you so you get a sense of some of the things that Facebook is doing to really help combat cyberbullying.
Educators get schooled by Facebook on ways to identify and handle cyberbullying. Pat Warren reports Maryland Public Schools are in a pilot program with Facebook to keep kids safe on the internet.
In Annapolis last year, a cyberbullying case involved a student who took another student's picture without permission, then texted the photo to other students with a disparaging comment. The picture and comment were eventually posted on social media.
I used to go to school with a lot of people who did that constantly, almost every day.
Today, Anne Arundel County was the meeting place for educators and representatives from Facebook in a program initiated by Attorney General Doug Gansler. It has educators working with Facebook to report postings that may look innocent but really are bullying.
I did have it happen to me before, and it really is painful.
You have a kid who's barked at in the hallway. They're called a dog. They walk to their locker, the kids bark at them. It's a very sad situation, and it's a situation that you as educators are all going to be aware of. So you can report content or find out how to report content through Facebook.
Cyberbullying is not uncommon, but the suicide of 15-year-old Grace McComas in Howard County was a game changer in Maryland.
Grace McComas was a game changer in the sense that it made it illegal as a misdemeanor here in the state of Maryland to engage in this kind of conduct against a minor. But the problem is the Grace McComas situations are horrible, but there's hundreds and thousands of children that are bullied every day that don't kill themselves, and they have to live with this.
Facebook encourages everyone to go to their help page when situations arise. I'm Pat Warren reporting from Anne Arundel County. Now back to you on TV Hill.
The minimum age to be on Facebook is 13.
So, Brendan, I know that you use Facebook quite a lot. What would be some of your recommendations maybe to some of your peers who use Facebook who might be encountering cyberbullying?
A recommendation for me is don't just friend everyone you've met ever. Like, I know a lot of people tend to do that if they have one class with one person, then they're friends on Facebook right away, and that's like the same kind of online relationship as their best friend. But I'd recommend to not friend everyone who sends you a friend request or everyone who you see that you know. Just limit it to people who you are like actually friends with. So then you don't have this kind of situation where someone who does not have the best relationship with you is online with you and can communicate with you that way.
Great, thank you, Brendan.
And one of the stats I saw is that the average teen has like 300 friends online. I don't know if that's your experience, Brendan, with some of your friends, but
Yeah, I've seen numbers a lot higher than that, actually, for some people.
I mean, I think it's really an interesting sort of dilemma in some ways because our society today is so technology focused. I mean, we rely on the internet, we rely on different forms of technology for so much, for school reports, for research, to communicate with each other, to build these online relationships. And as a parent, I know that I've wanted to make sure my child had that type of access, but at the same time, it's kind of scary to think that this can occur. So as parents, what should we look for? Ryan?
So there's a few things. I would look at the mood first. There's you're going to see increase in depression, anxiety, maybe you're going to see more truancy or skipping classes or like not wanting to go to class. There's sometimes there'll be like suicidal ideation, lowering of self-esteem, increase of anger, frustration. I mean, all the kind of like what we'd call negative mood states can increase with this feeling of powerlessness and the stress that comes as a part of it. I mean, there's obviously a ton of other reasons why that can emerge, but given today's culture, that'd be a nice like entry point to like start feeling into what's happening online, or and are they willing to talk to you about it, what their online worlds are like? Are they going to come to you with questions or concerns, or just as a parent to know, like, is this something that you can access with your teenager, especially, their online world?
It seems like, based on what you just said, that an important part of that relates to so many other things about having that positive communication channels with your teen, and having built that kind of relationship so that they would come and talk to you about something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Building that trust early on, because these kids are using it from 3 years old on. As soon as that brain starts like learning how the iPad works, they're well into it. And so like developing that like trusting relationship, and if you're, this is some other topics, but if you're gonna like spy on them, like let them know what you're monitoring, like emails or text, whatever, up front, so they don't think you're like covertly going behind to try to find these things. So.
Lisa, what would you like to add as tips for parents?
I think everything Ryan said, and a couple things. One, I think, I'm not from the generation where I grew up with this. I'm not a digital native, and I think a lot of parents aren't digital natives. And we have to remember that a lot of good does come out of the internet. Students still overwhelmingly use the cyber world for good and for schoolwork and that kind of thing. So I don't think we can lose track of that. But I think it's really important to have that relationship with our children, to have those discussions about what it's like, building that empathy for someone who is being targeted or bullied, whether it's cyber or not, but really getting our kids to think about what am I doing, what am I posting, that kind of thing. Would I say this in person? Would I say this to somebody's face? And I actually am a believer in monitoring. I think it's important for parents to know what's going on in their cyberland. I think you'll have kids say, "Oh, you're invading my privacy," and the truth is there is no privacy. That's the bottom line. So if a helpful watchful eye is watching, everybody knows that, not everybody, but the research shows that students really need to practice these skills. They need to learn about how to be digital citizens. And unless they're practicing that, unless somebody's helping guide them and teach them like an adult, I think they don't gain those skills. So I really do think that monitoring is a big part of this. We need to know what's going on in our kids' cyber lives.
Okay. Brendan, what advice would you have for parents?
I would say just like what was said earlier about just looking for behavioral changes in the kids. Obviously, behavioral changes can come from a lot of things like stress that naturally occurs with school. Like I know at my school, a lot of kids are stressed out because we have a lot of homework. That's just pretty much a fact. Everyone just kind of assumes you're going to have a lot of homework there. But if it's like they've been in school and they've had a routine for a while and then all of a sudden they just start acting differently, then there's probably something going on that should definitely be looked into at that point.
Okay.
Can I add a couple things too?
Sure.
And one thing I just want to build off was like, if your kid happens to be the cyber bully, because we kind of think in terms of the victim here, but if, instead of relating to the behavior, start relating to their belief systems. Like, what is it that, in their belief system that would allow this kind of behavior, like to help with that empathy training. And the other piece is, when you said digital citizenship, there's this idea of the second self and how much time and effort goes into the creation of this online second self, and that the second self has the same growing pains and makes bad decisions and does, things that they would later regret. And unfortunately, in today's age, it's a digital tattoo. It's indelible. And so having somebody to help monitor that and see that second self through its growing pains and hopefully lessen some of those mistakes, because colleges are now vetting back to age 13 the behavior that they see online of their applicants, is a very good idea.
Okay, thank you. And I'm glad you brought that up, because that was one of the things that I wanted to ask a little bit. Is a lot of times when we think about cyberbullying, we think about the person who's being bullied. And so I'm glad you mentioned also the person who's doing the cyberbullying, because I think in some respects, for parents, that's something that's a little harder to grasp, that it's your child who's intentionally causing hurt in another child. And how do you navigate that? I mean, I would imagine that's a tough conversation to have with the parent. Anybody want to add to that?
Well, yeah, I mean, I will. I mean, I think one piece is that to realize kids make mistakes, and they're going to choose a ton of different strategies to try to navigate, you know, an intense social world. And sometimes it's in the role of a perpetrator, and to come at it from the role of like non-judgment. So you can start the conversation, and so you lead in with questions, and rather than like arguing, and so to try to keep an open discussion. That's advice I tend to give. I don't know, Brendan, if you would say that would be more helpful than like somebody like kind of preaching at you, but what do you think what approach do you think would
Yeah,
work?
I definitely think that's right, that the just general conversational thing, like just straight up talking to them, like that's not going to be listened to as much as something that may have like more specific examples and be more personalized. Or just even something that's just little bits, like one little tip at a time, so that
short.
Yeah, because we have really short attention spans, and not going to pay attention for a long time. That's shouldn't be a surprise, but it still should be said, I think.
Okay, so we only have a few minutes left, and I would like to ask each of you to respond to. We talked about the individual. We talked about parents. I'd also like to ask you to respond about what you think that maybe things that schools and our community at large can do to really address the issue of cyberbullying. Lisa.
Well, I think we talked about some of it. I really do believe that we need to do a really good job of just digital citizenship in general. What does it mean to be part of this? What does it mean to be online? What does it mean to be a citizen? You know, the fact that there is no privacy, the fact that employers will search back and look you up and look at the things that you've done. People have gotten fired. People have not gotten jobs because of their footprint. So really helping students understand, again, there is no privacy. This does not go away. Snapchat does not go away. You think it goes away, but it doesn't. So really teaching kids about what that means and what the responsibility that goes with that, I think, is really important. And I think a lot of awareness, parent education, really talking to parents about what their role in this is, what their responsibility is, how to stay up on all of this. There are some great websites with that keep parents, that keep up those of us who aren't as in the know, just up to date on what the latest is, what it looks like, you know, what can happen and that kind of thing. So those are a couple things. We work closely with our SRO, our school resource officer as well, just to talk about the other side of things, not as threatening, but just to let students know that there are consequences for some of this behavior as well, so that they're fully aware on the front end. So that and just a really good, thorough prevention program in place are the important pieces, I think.
Ryan?
Yeah, I mean, and in terms of the consequences, you know, they found that punitive stuff actually doesn't lead often to lasting behavior change, so it's more working at the belief systems level and being able to have those conversations. I know I keep coming back to that, and creating a positive social climate at the schools, and like, you know, the parents are involved. They're learning. I will make a website plug. Cyberbullying.us has a lot of very current research, and they keep their website very up to date. That's one that I'd recommend kind of checking at, just to see some different strategies more concretely.
Okay. And Brendan, what would you recommend in terms of schools and community?
I think just letting kids know that what they put out online, like anywhere, it's not coming back. Like Lisa mentioned Instagram. Like a lot of times, like even like the pictures supposedly go away after like 7 seconds. I'm not sure. I don't have one. I'm not sure the exact number. But I know that if someone has just just a weird picture, like just something that's really funny, that immediately whoever they sent it to is going to take a screenshot of that, and then it's going to be there for a while. I've seen a lot of those shared on Facebook. So, and same with Facebook posts. That's going to be there forever. Like if someone wants to find what you posted 4 years ago, they can go see what they posted 4 years ago. So just having that knowledge and being able to think about what you post first, that makes a huge difference.
Okay, great. Before I go ahead and talk about the upcoming events in February and the next television show and thank our sponsor and all that good stuff, I'd like to ask each of you if you have any closing comments you would like to make. Ryan.
Yeah, I want to say that I think the majority of behavior that goes on online is actually pro-social and helpful and whatnot. And in my practice, I haven't seen a ton of cyberbullying. You know, I'm always kind of asking for it. I see more kind of addictive qualities with the internet and gaming, and cyberbullying is something I hear about, but it's you know, I've heard about 25% of people experience it in their lifetime, but when it does strike, it can be lethal. You know, so it's good to keep an eye towards, but to know that like most of the activities going on online are okay. You know.
Can YouTube be addicting?
YouTube?
Yeah.
Why do you ask, Lisa?
Lisa.
Again, I would just say for parents to keep those lines of communication open, really talking to your children, and I think this is really valuable, again, that bystander piece, and really having conversations about, you know, what do you do if, what do you do when, whether that's bullying or whether that's a student who says they're going to kill themselves or they're cutting, you know, what is our responsibility as a community member to the community, and how can you intervene safely, and what can you do, what do you feel comfortable with? But those are really important conversations to have.
Okay, Brendan?
I agree with what Ryan said, that there is a lot of, like what we've been talking about, it may make the internet seem like there's a lot of negative out there, but it is still good, and there are still a lot of beneficial things about it. Like, for example, just researching for a homework assignment. I know I've done that a lot online. And so, like, it's just important to remember that while we are spending a lot of time talking about this, that there are still a lot of good things, like with the internet in general and with social media as well.
Okay, great. So I'm going to go ahead and list the Pathways to Parenting events that are coming up in February, as well as talk a little bit about our next show. And what I'd like to do is close with a video clip from Good Morning America that talks about a young college student who's been cyberbullied and took that and turned that around to really become self-empowering. Because I thought that would be a good thing to close out tonight with. So the upcoming Pathways to Parenting events in February, these are the library presentations, and they all take place from 6:30 to 8 p.m. at the Meadows Branch Library in Boulder on February 4th. There's Strategic Step Parenting for Healthy Blended Families. On February 10th at the Mamie Dowd Eisenhower Library in Broomfield, The Art of Being a Father. On February 18th, at the Louisville Library, The Secrets to Effective Family Communication. And then on February 5th, there's a live webinar from noon to 1 p.m. on 5 ways to develop healthy self-esteem in your child. The next television show is on March 3rd and is College Success, Tips and Tools for a Great Experience. Find out why over 40% of undergraduate college students don't earn their degree and how you can make sure your child isn't one of them. And then on April 7th, that show will be about marijuana and our youth, and will feature a number of youth panelists speaking. I'd like to thank our show partners, the Boulder Valley School District and Channel 22, and the sponsors who include Boulder County Healthy Youth Alliance, the Daily Camera, Centennial Peaks Hospital, the Parent Engagement Network, the Hope Coalition, Temple Grandin School, and Boulder Counseling Cooperative. And then now we will go ahead and share with you the clip from this morning's Good Morning America.
To turn internet hate on its head. So many people are subjected to negative comments from anonymous people when they post their pictures online. Well, now a young woman is confronting the issue, and ABC's Claire Shipman has her story.
21-year-old photography student Lindsay Bottas is turning cyberbullying on its head.
Some of them are like really personal and just like so hateful.
She was so sick of the cruel anonymous comments posted online about her selfies, she decided to fight back. In a compelling and artistic plea for change, she's layered images of herself with words devastating to read. Ooh, eat something, seriously. You're honestly one of the ugliest people I've ever seen in my whole entire life. It's funny because you think you're cute, but it's really just sad. Sorry, the truth hurts.
I basically have just been screen capping them and saving them for something and decided to do a project.
A stark illustration of the contrast between cowardice and bravery. Appropriately, she's called her creation Anonymous.
You could say the rudest, most horrible things, and you don't have to pay the price. You have the cloak of invisibility.
And now it seems Bodice's decision to put a spotlight on those ugly comments, even at risk of public humiliation, has generated a rush of positive commentary. That's awesome. I'll bet you inspire a lot more people. Thank you for taking the time to shed light on a topic that has hurt many people.
If this can help anyone with their self-esteem at all, I think that's amazing.
Cruelty transformed into power, and a modern crusade for a very gutsy young woman. For Good Morning America, Claire Shipman, ABC News, Washington.
So thank you for that clip. Lisa Collins, a producer on the show, shared that with me earlier today, and I thought it fit because one of the things we talked about is how bullying is disempowering, and this is kind of taking your power back. So in conclusion, I would like to thank our panelists this evening, Ryan, Lisa, and Brendan. Thank you so much for your help this evening, and thank you for helping to shed light on the topic of cyberbullying.
Down, and soon the growth returns to follow ground. But I know what's churning underneath the snow, and I love my baby, and we've miles to go. Hey, 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 I'm okay. Be with me. We'll beat this, can't you see? So wait a while, winter time.